Sup, everyone? We're back with more Great Ace Attorney. Let's kick it off, shall we? In fact, the circumstances of the victim's death can only be explained by a terrible venom. Well... let's look back at the history, because this is actually taking place a day after the last recording. Terrible venom, no signs of a wound, Mr. Sholmes to be unaware of blah blah blah, wasn't poisoned. So we have to find evidence of his death, basically. Nothing to report. What about this? This is what makes the most sense to me.
Yes!
Is it that? Mark on floor. Nope, that's not it. That deduction was wanting in every way. Yes, I was wanting you to hear it. I'm quite proud of it. I find myself wanting never to have heard it. I'm quite pained by it, in fact. Oh, sorry. I'll try again. That was not the answer. Okay.
We know that Kazuma-sama wasn't killed by poison.
Yes, but it seems that Mr. Sholmes doesn't.
We should show him the evidence that we have
that details the cause of death. Oh, right. Alright. Alright. At that oh, the postmortem, right. Given the cause of death... Oh, right. Duh.
Yes!
No idea what I thought about that. Forgive me, it's been a day. In fact, the circumstances of the victim's death can only be explained by the post-mortem report. Ah yes, I knew it was one or the other. Sorry, one thing I love about this part of these parts is that the music's dynamic depending on what you're doing.
His neck was...
Indeed, the breaking of the cervical vertebrae is fatal. Only that Goliath would be strong enough to survive that. Seaman Stroganov isn't some immortal freak, you know. The jury is out. Anyways, we have a good authority that the victim's neck was broken. Now, if we take that as fact, we can reasonably imagine that there remains evidence to affirm it at the scene of the crime.
Oh no, could there be?
Yes, an examination of the deceased body will prove the cause of death conclusively. Kazuma died because his neck was broken. In other words, he was probably struck by something or someone.
Yes, that's a distinct possibility. As of yet, no weapon has been found, though.
Presumably Darka didn't silently creep up behind Kazuma and deal him a fatal blow.
I suppose it's possible that he had a fall and hit the ground awkwardly. It could have been a terrible act of misfortune that he broke his neck completely by accident.
Oh yes, a bad fall could explain it.
It's rather hard to believe of Kazuma-sama, though. He wasn't a clumsy man.
Well, we need to fix this deduction somehow. Is there anything from the scene that could explain what happened? Well, I know I just presented this wrongly, but I feel like this is actually a good time to... Oh, that's cool. You can use this to look at the picture. I'd say this seems likely. And that looks like a bell, so that would explain a lot. No, R.
Yes!
Yes! Yes! An exclamation. An examination of the mark on the floor will prove the cause of death conclusively. This particular mark, so prominently visible next to the victim's body, is a deposit of shoe polish.
Shoe polish? Shoe polish?
Indeed, positively identified by a little analysis device I constructed, which I carry now as a matter of course.
Beeswax, tallow, and dye were my results. The undeniable ingredients of shoe polish. And the color of the polish is a perfect match to the color of Mr. Asogi's laced leather shoes. Looking at this mark, it's not hard to imagine what happened. For some reason, Mr. Asogi must have caught his foot at that point on the floor and tripped. Please, no. And, by a dreadful turn of misfortune, caught his neck against some immovable object as he fell to the floor. Suffering a fatal blow to the spine, the victim's vertebrae shattered, and in that instant, he lost his life. No! I don't know. I don't know anything about this. Is that really true, Miss Pavlova? What about the evidence left at the scene where Mr. Asogi lost his life? Yes, the facts are as clear as day to me. You did all you could to conceal the incriminating evidence. But now your involuntary glance betrays the hiding place you chose. That's right. You hid the evidence that links you to the victim's death in that traveling case. I don't believe it. Kazuma-sama merely tripped over and now he's no more? It can't be true. I refuse to accept it. I know it's hard to believe, but the mark on the floor does seem to suggest that's what happened. But... And if this part of Mr. Sholm's deduction is right, Miss Pavlova is trying to hide some evidence that would prove it. And I just knocked over something. Here in this cabin, somewhere in the direction that she just cast her eyes. Where, I wonder? Let's have a good look around. The answer must be here somewhere. I didn't do it quite right. I would say that the waste paper basket is probably the actual answer here. Let's examine first. This is where Miss Pavlova hid her friend. That's right, and it wasn't a snake after all. No, it was that little kitten she calls Darka. Not that it's anywhere to be seen now. It seems to have let itself out of the case and gone exploring. I expect it's wrapped itself around someone's head somewhere, trying to make a new friend. Either that or it's scratching their hand to pieces. The point is, where has it got to? Ah, somebody appears to have dropped 20,000 rubles here. It hasn't been dropped, Norahoda-san, it's been placed. I'm starting to sound like Mr. Sholmes. Stop trying to sound like the great detective. Can she read my mind?
Yes!
Do this for the funny. I know this case is innocent here, but I can't help feeling that it's caused us rather a lot of headaches today. So, I'm gonna accuse it anyway. I understand what Ryunosuke is saying, though. It's like, I'm going to accuse this thing out of spite, because that's what I want to do. It just seems so unlike Kazuma-sama to stumble carelessly and then fall to his death. No, it's hard to believe, but the mark on the floor does seem to suggest that's what happens. Okay, let me just save, because I want to get the funnies. Let me save in a different slot, though, just in case there's any problems with the recording. You never know. And present the tiara. You tried to hide the evidence in plain sight, didn't you? It's this tiara. Oh, don't give me that wide-eyed, incredulous stare. I know the truth. That 20,000 rubles is enough to make anyone lose their head. Mr. Naruhodo, you do know you are making fun of your own friend's demise, don't you? Why, yes, of course. But I mean, he's dead. What's he gonna do? Punch me for making fun of him?
Well, that sounds very insensitive. Honestly, you're kind of a terrible person right now. Yeah, maybe I went a bit too far. Da 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 da. Oh, we only got one other thing here to examine.
This is a waste paper basket. Perhaps all the first-class cabins have them.
But Miss Pavlova only started occupying this cabin late last night. Presumably there's not much rubbish in there yet. Oh, what's this?
It's a broken piece of glass, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I feel like I've seen it somewhere before.
If it looks familiar, perhaps it's more than your mind simply playing tricks on you.
Well, that certainly wasn't there last time I checked. Granted, I think that was in the failed recording that I checked this.
Yes!
That's right, you hear the evidence that links you to the victim's death in that waste paper basket.
Ah!
Here we have a fragment of some intricate glass object, it would seem. One that has a familiar air, in fact. Precisely, we found another piece of broken glass on the floor in Mr. Asogi's cabin. And, as you can see, the two pieces fit together perfectly.
Oh no.
So, Miss Pavlova, shall we consider what this tells us? Why would it be that part of this glass object, which was evidently broken at the scene of the crime, of the victim's death, should be found in the waste paper basket in your cabin?
Yeah!
You're well acquainted with this glass bell, are you not?
I don't...
I don't know, and that hush Russian accent of yours won't save you this time, dear girl. Why? Because we have conclusive evidence linking you to the bell in question.
What?
Take it away, Mr. Naruhodo. Bring it on home. Yes. The evidence linking Miss Pavlova and the little glass bell, that would be...
Yes!
the photo. If you look at this photograph, you can clearly see, painting from darkest color, the very glass bell in question. The truth has caught up with you, Miss Pavlova. The young man who lost his life last night did so after a truly inauspicious fall. And the cause of that fateful stumble your absent feline friend, Darka. And the final blow has been dealt.
I couldn't tell anyone. I'm sorry.
Death by tripping over a cat. And that is the truth of this case. Elementary. Hot damn. Why don't you tell us now, Miss Pavlova? Tell us exactly what happened last night.
It was a little after 1 in the morning. It was so late, but I hadn't had time to feed Darka, so I gave her some food. And then, all of a sudden, she scratched me and jumped out of my hands.
People do say that cats become very anxious and nervous in new environments.
She was so fast, she disappeared through the ventilator before I could stop her.
And that is how you acquired the rather nasty wound on the back of your hand, I take it.
Yes. And I had read the rules on the wall. I knew that I was not allowed Darka with me.
Yes, modern science suggests that animals can carry infectious diseases. It's a precaution, really. I did not mean to press that.
So I listened and listened, trying to hear if there was some noise in the next cabin. It was very quiet. I was sure if someone was there, he must be sleeping.
So at that point you thought it safe to try to lure the kitten back again. By dangling the end of the toy through the ventilator and into the adjoining cabin.
Darka always loves this toy, but it didn't work. Nothing worked. I tried using her favorite toy. I tried whistling to her softly, but nothing. She didn't return.
So the faint whistling sound Kazuma wrote about in his diary was Miss Pavlova trying to retrieve her pet. Cats have a propensity to remain hidden in the shadows when frightened.
Yes, so there was nothing else I could do. I just had to wait. But then...
Oh god. She actually heard her cat and then the...
I nearly passed out with shock. I heard her cry out and then... Oh, it was such a dreadful bane. Then afterwards, nothing. It was totally silent.
Kazuma was... It seems he was just a victim of a very unfortunate accident. From the appearance of the brown mark on the floor, it seems likely that what you heard was the victim stepping on the glass bell and tripping up. The SS Bury is a large vessel, but even she can pitch and roll violently without warning. If Mr. Sogi was already off balance as a result of the ship lurching when the kitten got underneath his feet, the combination of unfortunate factors could have easily caused him to fall over. But what became of the kitten afterwards? Yeah, that is something we still don't know, is where the cat ended up.
In the end, I managed to get her to come back through the ventilator.
Oh right, we saw the case move, so clearly Darka came back at some point. Yet Darka's nowhere to be seen.
I must have forgotten to lock my case. And now she's disappeared again.
Gracious, that cat is as insufferably restless as I am. Well, he knows something about himself at least. Still making jokes, aren't you, Ryunosuke?
When I woke this morning, I heard that a young man in the cabin next to mine had died. But I couldn't bring myself to tell anyone what had happened. I was too scared. Scared that they would send me back.
Oh, hold on a minute. What about the snake? You're right, where is it? If the snake isn't your friend, Miss Pavlova, then whose is it and where did it come from? What on earth is such a dangerous creature doing on board the ship? He's petting the snake and smiling. Don't tell me the crewman, the Beef Stroganoff here, has the snake as a pet. Oh, I didn't say. Snake is my friend. His name is Pirozko. Hmm? What? What? That snake belongs to you. He escaped from cage when emergency alarm sounded. I was looking for him. I did not expect to find him in here. Yes, how did that snake get into this cabin? But animals are not permitted on board. We are at sea for 1 year. You want to be so alone without close friend, without someone who understands. Couldn't you find someone a little more human who understands you better?
But my dear burly fellow, a gargantuan venomous snake, surely you can appreciate the danger you're putting everyone in.
No venom. Pirosco does not have venom. He is harmless, very long but very gentle. He is adorable like Granny.
I did realize that the snake has no visible fangs. It's venomless?
Duh. Now he is hungry, so he is in bad mood. But once I feed him, you will see big smile.
And you feed him what? Milk, I suppose?
Like they say, milk chickens. Ridiculous. Snake that drink milk are only in stupid stories. Pirilsko eats mouses. Big fat round mouses.
Ah. Oh, so... I just peaked my mic by clapping. So that's what the freaking mousetrap in the hallway is for. Is that what the mousetrap in the passageway out there is for? Yeah.
Of course. How else can I catch my friend's favorite food?
Nothing says top of the food chain like the look in their eyes right now. Oh my god, he's gone into JoJo mode where his eyes are clouded. It refuses to drink milk. It can't hear a whistle. It can't climb up a bell cord. And it's not even venomous. Sholmes? How the deuce did someone so inept land a starring role?
It's not my fault. I did not make up stories. My Pirosco has nothing to do with this incident.
Oh, brother. So that's what happened. That's the truth behind my best friend's tragic death. I mean, I know I made fun of him a bunch during the case, but hey. Damn. I always yawn when I'm recording because I always do it late at night. It's always one of the last things I do every day. Miss Pavlova. I understand the difficult situation you found yourself in, and I do sympathize. But please remember this. A young man lost his life. If you're going to attempt to cover up your guilt with lies, then no matter what the circumstances, I cannot forgive you. But what are you talking about, Miss Mikotopa? What lies? Miss Pavlova just confessed everything. It's just a series of unfortunate events. An accident. Sholmes, you got something for us, buddy? I'm no great detective like Mr. Sholmes. I don't have a gift for knowing the truth. But even I can see that was not the truth. Don't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo? I don't know. To be perfectly honest, yes. There's a discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story, I'm sure of it. I just can't quite put my finger on it. Is it the Russian... Is it the note written in Russian or something? I confess. I was intending to let Scotland Yard deal with any outstanding issues on this matter. Oh? I am only present here for a very specific reason. The truth is, you, Mr. Naruhodo, are simply a distraction. A distraction? I do hope you've not been finding your shackles too uncomfortable. Not again? When did he do that? Especially as they're on your wrist as a result of my intervention. I was rather hoping I could resolve matters before we made our next port call. You were Mr. Sholmes? Yes, but I overlooked one important detail.
The deceased young man was a very close companion of yours. Was he not? Yes. Cosmo was my closest friend. I owed him my freedom, even. In that case, we must follow this to its conclusion. No further distractions. You must uncover the real truth here, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, whatever that may be. The key to this is the discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story, I'm sure. If I can chase that down, maybe the truth will become clear. That's a new thing. The truth about how you really died. About how that scene in your cabin really came to be. This is new music. Holy shit. Oh, this is good. Alright, I'll see what I can do. Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Naruhodo. So then, shall we begin? Yes. What we should ponder first is the victim who lost his life in a cabin that was bolted shut from the inside. Was this truly an unfortunate accident? Or was it in fact no accident at all? That is what we must establish in the first instance. But we've already established it, haven't we? The man tripped over the kitten that had climbed into his cabin via the ventilator. Tragic, yes, but still an accident.
Hold it!
Oh, that was us. Wait, let's just take a step back. Doesn't make sense if that's really what happened, does it? I'm gonna have to ask you to spell it out for me, I'm afraid. Yes, it's starting to take shape now. Well, it isn't for me, so let me save. I know we're at quite a tense moment here. Oh, wait, nope. I gotta remember to save in a different slot. Would be no one's fault but my own if I did otherwise. There's a clear contradiction between the facts and Miss Pavlova's story here. The evidence is right there in Cosmo's cabin. It's undeniable. His death couldn't possibly have been a mere accident. Really? Let us show our hand, Mr. Naruhodo. Time to present the evidence. The evidence that proves unequivocally that the victim's death was no mere accident. The crime scene photograph, right? The truth is clearly recorded in this photographic print. I was right. Because of that message. There's no way that Mr. Asogi could have left this message on the floor. That script. It's Russian. Oh wait, sorry, that wasn't Sholmes. That script. It's Russian, isn't it? Indeed it is. The word written means wardrobe. I see what you mean. Most people would leave a dying message in their native language. Japanese in this case.
But maybe he was studying Russian. It is a simple language. He could have picked it up very fast.
That doesn't seem likely. That's actually not the point. It makes no difference whether he knew Russian or not. Sorry, what do you mean? Exactly what I said before. His death was instant. There is no way that Mr. Asogi could have left that message on the floor. And the reason why is clearly explained in here. Damage to the cervical vertebrae resulting in instant death. Instant death. Ugh. Which means, after the victim fell to the floor, he couldn't possibly have written anything. Because he was already dead.
That's not the only reason either. There's something else we found in Mr. Asogi's cabin. A remnant of something that couldn't possibly have been there if what Miss Pavlova told us was true.
What? So, Sasada-san has noticed it too, then. Pulling this message on the floor aside, there's something else that gives the truth away. Another piece of evidence that proves this is no accident. In other words, I am not sure on this one. I'm not sure. The paper's seal, maybe?
Yes!
Because wardrobe? What point are you trying to make with that evidence? I'm starting to see how Kazuma's death really happened, I think. Nope, that was not it. I think that you are starting to see nothing of the sort. And that was the evidence to prove it. Ugh. If it was no accident, then what we should be looking for is one of two things. Either the absence of something you would expect to find at the scene of an accident, or the presence of something you wouldn't. Something that should be there but isn't. Most compendiously put, my dear madam. Ah, I see. I don't. I confess your rather languid I.C. doesn't fill me with confidence, Naruhodo-san. Don't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. I believe in you. Well, more than Mr. Sholmes does it, anyway. Yes, it's starting to take shape now. Okay. Attempt number whatever. Number 2. Is it this, maybe?
Yes!
Is it just this, maybe? Yeah. It was the fact that half of it's missing. This piece of broken glass next to the mark on the floor. But that's the glass bell the kitten had around its neck. We already know all about that. It was broken in half when the victim tripped over the cat and fell. So we already have a satisfactory explanation. Where's the flaw in that logic? Unfortunately, there's a very big flaw. A fatal flaw. What? If that's really what happened, then how did one half of the bell end up back here in this cabin? Oh. Yes, remember that we found the other half of the glass bell in that wastepaper basket. Would you care to explain that, Miss Pavlova? Why it was wasting away in the wastepaper basket? Oh no. Both these pieces of evidence clearly point to the same conclusion. Also, I think I hear a Darka in this room somewhere. But when Mr. Asogi died last night in his cabin, there was someone else in the room. And that same person deliberately arranged the scene of the crime to disguise the truth, in order to cover up his or her own guilt. Yeah! Yes, there was someone else present in Mr. Asogi's... That was a new hold it. Was that like beef stroganoff?
You were wasting time. Someone else was there. Duh, of course, we know this.
What are you talking about? I was not expecting that. That voice came out of nowhere for me.
Bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. There was no way in or out. Oh, yes.
Hosonaga knows that's not true.
The only other person in cabin when young student died was you.
Yes!
It's true, I was in the cabin when it happened. You were shut inside the cabin wardrobe, to be precise about the details. But I don't know Russian, there's no way I would have left that message. Not would have, there's no way you could have left that message, to be precise about the details. Would you mind? Forgive me, my dear fellow. Stop laughing, we're talking about my friend's death. Oh, so I'm not allowed to do it, but you're allowed to do it as many times as possible. Shut it, you. As I was saying, the person in question wrote the word wardrobe in Russian on the floor. In an attempt to incriminate me for the crime, even though I had been asleep in there the entire time. Hey, that rhymes. And then the same person picked up the broken glass bell that had fallen to the floor,
for fear of it becoming evidence that would show how Mr. Asogi really died. Okay, but my question is, why'd you take half but not the other half?
But why wouldn't the person have taken all the pieces of the bell away? Leaving half behind was always going to raise questions.
Exactly. Yes, well, it was past 1 o'clock in the early hours of the morning. The cabin would have been quite dark. A single small lamp suspended from the ceiling would barely have cast any light onto the floor there. Little wonder, then, that the culprit failed to notice a fragment of the tiny item. You all suspect me, don't you? Oh, the snake's gone.
Oh my god. I just realized something.
I always thought that his freaking face was weirdly shaded. Okay, do you see this man's face and how it has like 2 different colors? Like his entire face is striped. Like all of the skin around his neck and face, like he has like pretty light skin and then like a tanned skin or like reddish. And that's because of the frickin' snake being around his head. That was foreshadowing. Because he was like that from the beginning. Seaman Stroganoff.
Nina's woman of sea. She is daughter of strong sailor. 2 years ago, they noticed her dancing skills and she went away to join ballet company. But before, she was dancer on the ship, a member of ship's band.
Wait, what?
You do not accuse ship's angel of being criminal.
Ah, so that's it.
You say that when young student died, Nina was there in his cabin. But that is not possible. I give my tooth.
Well, that is almost interesting. And why would you give your tooth, pray? How can you be so sure?
You're a great detective. You should know. Look through thin eyes. Cabin bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. Nobody could go into cabin. Not Nina, not anyone. Or do you want to tell me that Kira can walk through locked door? Нет, it's impossible.
He's right. But wait, I've read about this in detective stories. People often tie thread around door latches so they can open and close them from the outside. Aren't you the one that said that that was impossible with these doors?
Fred, are you stupid? These bulkheads are not barn doors.
Certainly not. These are watertight doors no one would expect to find on any modern steamship. Constructed of heavy steel with not a gap in sight. No threads or needles or magnets could have been used. No, of course not. I thought so too. But Mr. Naruhodo suggested it earlier, so... Susato-san, how could you shift it onto me like that? God damn it. So Seaman Stroganov has a valid point. The cabin door couldn't have been bolted from the inside.
Not necessarily. What?
I put it to you that I could bolt this cabin door without laying a finger on it. And in this very cabin, we can see the traces of the method I have in mind having been used before.
I don't believe it.
I mean, you expected it. Or you experienced it, Hosonaga. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, I believe you know what I mean, don't you? A way to shut the bolt of the cabin from the inside. One way does spring to mind, yes. Do you really know what Mr. Sholmes means, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, and so should you. Because we've seen it happen. Indeed we have. So, would you care to do the honors, Mr. Naruhodo? Point out the telling signs of the method that was used to slide the cabin door bolt across from the outside.
Okay, yeah, we know what it is.
Yes.
Pop up. The door. This is it. This shows how it was done. It certainly shows how something was done, I concur. In fact, it's an excellent way to show how it is to jump to the wrong conclusion. Oh. But a truly dismal way to show how the bolt could be made to slide shut from outside the cabin. Did you really need to say truly dismal? Okay, so I guess I was slightly off. Okay. Oh no, we gotta point at this stuff, probably.
Yes.
Look at the bookcase there. See how all the books and things on it have toppled over? That must have happened when the ship made its emergency stop before. Yes, that's right. It's a very powerful vessel, after all. When the engines are thrown into reverse, a violent jolt goes across the entire ship. I didn't mean to open my court record. Any small objects that aren't fastened down are bound to fall over. I believe, yes, it's what's known as the force of inertia, acting on the objects. Objects. Is there nothing Susato-san doesn't know? No. Or that isn't in her book, at least. See, I commented on that in an episode or two on how many things she has in that singular book. Well, whatever it's called, the same force that pushed over those books on the bookshelf, on the bookcase, also made something else in this cabin move. The bolt on the cabin door. Ah! It was very obvious just after the emergency stop that the ship made earlier. We had come into the cabin not long before, and we hadn't bolted the door. But then... Hello, is anybody in there? Shout if you need assistance. Oh, that sounds like... Inspector Hosonaga. Oh, yes. That's it. When the ship stopped suddenly, the bolt flew across and locked the door. Yes, it's made of metal, but it's small and light enough to be moved by the ship's sudden change of speed. Or the first of ineptia, if you want to call it that. Are you trying to say that last night, after Mr. Asogi was killed? Yep, here we go. Yep. The SS Burrier made another emergency stop. And that explains all the headaches people woke up with. Also, I just want to point out the fact that Ryunosuke, like, how Susato talked about freaking inertia. And then Ryunosuke said ineptia. Just casually. Just inept. Yeah, that's totally it. I mean, it might have been a pun, but I don't know. When I woke up this morning and looked around the cabin... odd. Shut up. Stop yawning. God. All the books on the shelves had toppled over, and all the ornaments. Also another new song. Very good. It was almost as if someone had run their hands across the shelves and deliberately knocked everything over. Oh yes, I remember that. And I stood them all up again, didn't I? Then, when we came into this cabin, we were surprised to see the same thing in here. All the books and everything had toppled over, just like in Mr. Asogi's cabin. Oh my! Do you have anything to say about this, Miss Pavlova? Are you out of your mind? You say Burya made emergency stop. Does seem a little far-fetched. How could that possibly have happened? Unless you're saying that the culprit is actually someone from the engine room. Oh, it is simple enough. I think I know what it is. Ship's log. Duty crewman, B. Stroganov. Nothing to report, and from 2 a.m. to past it, there is nothing written. Why do you think that is? Are you forgetting the button in the passageway outside? Used to trigger the emergency alarm.
Oh yes, of course. There was a notice, wasn't there, telling you only to press the button in times of emergency.
On dark nights, when the fog is dense, the captain cannot afford to rely on the eyes of his lookout alone. Hence the placement of a number of buttons around the vessel to allow any crewman to raise the alarm. The sort of button one is almost compelled to press to satisfy one's curiosity.
It was you!
When the button is pressed, two things happen in the interests of safety. The emergency alarm bell rings and the vessel comes to a complete stop. Oh! Sholmes was the one that pressed it the second time. Because he was out in the hallway, so he pressed it out of curiosity. Oh, this dumbass. As indeed it did a little earlier today.
Mr. Sholmes, surely it wasn't you who...
As I always say, a button has but one purpose in life. To be pressed, whatever the occasion. He sounded almost proud of himself.
How dare you mess with sheep?
How dare he indeed. Oh man. I don't know how long we have... I feel like we're getting close to the end of this case. Hi, buddy. Sorry, guys, we found Darka. I don't know how close we are to the end of this case, but I also feel like we need... I feel like I should split it, because either I'm going to be going for a super long episode, because I have no idea how long this will last still, or... You know what? This is kind of an awkward place to end, but I think we're going to stop it here. Next time on Great Ace Attorney, we'll finish off this case, hopefully, because I think we're reaching the end here. Adios, ciao, and bye-bye. Signing off until next time. Ja, mata ne.